Right.
So if I've got somebody whose center of gravity is really far forward, I can give them a heels elevated position, and I can get them to hold something in front of them, maybe like a goblet position, that anterior load to shift them back. And so now all I have to do is say, hey, don't lose the inside of your foot and sit down, right? It's the concept of self-organization, which is basically you are allowing the body to organize itself based on the external inputs you're giving it. As I said, the people who are the most stiff that I find are people who have their center of gravity on their toes. And so my main objective in order to open up range of motion is to shift them towards their heels. Now, I could use something like a wedge or a ramp that I can stick totally underneath their foot. I don't want it so that their heels are elevated on a plate and their toes are on the ground, because that's just going to put more weight on their toes. And so again, their center of gravity moves forward. But if I can bring them more on their heels, well, with their full foot on the ramp, that's going to get the shift back that I want.
Yeah, and
So,
you're leading me right into when you think about training, programming, and
yeah,
programming for respect of and restoration of relative motion compared to
yeah.
orientation, right? So what do you think about that? What do you think about restoring and respecting relative motion, but then also understanding that there is a reason why we do want to train orientation, right? Maybe not the orientations that people are bringing to the table, but can you talk a little bit about how you work with relative motion versus orientations in your training programs?
I'm going to start to restore relative motion. Whenever I work with somebody, I always like to start with improving some degree of relative motion. I mean, it makes sense. I need to give them some range of motion so I can load it, because I know when I load them throughout different blocks, I'm going to be stealing some of that relative motion. But again, I've taught the brain, hey, I have been exposed to this. I know how to get back to it. So even though I'm adding load, I can still hang on to some of the relative motion, even though I'm stealing others. So, for example, if I've got somebody who's got 60 degrees of hip flexion, or when they squat, they can only get to 60, it doesn't make sense for me to start loading them up right there, because I'm just going to take away more motion. I want to get them maybe to 90 and then be like, okay, we're at 90. Let's hold on to 90, but still load you. Let's progressively overload, but you're still going to 90. So even though I'm loading them up, it's going to start facilitating more orientation. The degree of orientation is not going to steal away the work we've done before.